Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Nerd On Update, the weekly show where we talk about the news that excites us. We don't introduce the host, but also we answer questions from you, the audience. So it's a weekly nerd show. It's we talk about some news, we chit chat, we talk with y'all. We do a cool little thing with before we
spanking time.
We do a green room thing with our Discord. So if y'all ever want to just like chat it up, talk about your week, maybe get a little bit of a hint or a tip of what's going on in the episode. But honestly, this is just kind of a cool stream that we just chat and talk about the nerdy news and stuff like that. Thank you first and foremost from Brad, Bad Reprint, for the raid. I'm going to go and read this raid message. Like I said, today's Monday, so we raid Nerd On. Might be back playing the after the update. They're going to be up for about 1 to 2 hours. We'll be up for typically 1 hour. So around 9-ish is when you can go and tuck the kids to sleep, and then go watch Bad Reprint play some. What are you playing this?
Resident
Evil. Yes.
The remake.
I saw RE and I was like, which one is that one? Was that one?
RE4.
Corey.
Oh, 2, my bad.
Corey, we've been talking for a little bit. We were in the green room, but also for the people who are listening, how's your week, man? What was your weekend like? You do anything fun, filled, and exciting?
No. Well, let's see. This weekend, I played a lot of Magic this week. That was my week. I did a lot of editing and a lot of Magic. Those were my 2 modes. I got to finish a couple projects that I've been working on and get some headway done on a few other projects I was kind of dragging my feet on. So nice to get those done. But most importantly, I've been staying up at night, and I've finished writing 3 episodes of a TV show that I'm creating.
Nice.
So that felt really good. Got some first drafts done of those. So more productive week than usual, and I got to play some Magic. So no complaints. How about you, Tom?
No, I mean that's an important thing. I've been working on the show that I've been working on. We've been a lot more boots to the ground in producing episodes, and also like the promo work and all the stuff we've been doing. And I was talking to a guy who is the current lead editor of the show. And he's like this fucking just tall, lanky, jacked dude who's like, this lead editor who also like shoots stuff as well. And, he has like a lot of cool friends, like in high places. Definitely like celebrity name drops if you wanted to consider it that. And he tends to be a pretty chill guy. And like all he does on his time away from work is he'll either work out, he'll hang out with his kids and his wife, and he'll do marathons and stuff like that. So I'm just like, Jesus, this guy does a lot. He hits a lot of like the benchmarks of kind of like, oh, this is what like a successful adult does, right? He definitely got the salt and peppers, so it's like, okay, you're a little older than me. But he was saying that, because I was telling him, I was like, we're chit-chatting, talking about the weekend. He was like, oh, I did this, did that. Then I was like, yeah, I started doing this. I met up with these people for, this future project I want to work on. And I was like, also, I've been writing this one thing. He's like, oh, that's what I haven't done in like years, is I haven't written. And I think that's kind of the interesting thing, just to carry Tiger Pounce.
Yep.
I was doing what's that one game, LA Noire? Yeah. And that's the interesting thing. It's like writing and reading is such a interesting, primal, essential, not even a craft. It is something that we do, essential, elemental thing that, like, if you don't spend time, not even like, even if you don't consider yourself a writer, those who are watching or listening, if you just like write, kind of like your thoughts and just do a nice reflection of like your week, your month, your year, kind of like just listing down positive things or just even goals for yourself. Those are very helpful. But, if you are a creative person and you do want to potentially tell stories, writing those things down and not dedicating the time to do so, it's hard to continue to go back onto that. But for myself, what I ended up doing this weekend, so Friday we got out early, and then I think I just cleaned the hell up. I had so many things like land on my plate.
Clean the hell up.
Like I honestly, like throughout the week, like I try to maintain like I try to maintain like cleanliness and like organization in my life. Like if you saw my apartment on the outside, it's like, all right, it's kind of kept together. You know, it could use some, you know, je ne sais quoi, a woman's touch here and there. But like for the most part, my room is like, all right, it's a dude lives here, and you know, it's organized to a sense. But then throughout the week, it'll just be like, you know, pants go here, jacket goes on that couch thing, and then so I just definitely have to just do that, and just what I usually do, I call it, I don't know, it's like it's like the post-mortem of the week. So I definitely had to do that for Friday, and then just get kind of ready for
like that.
the next few days, because there were 2 birthdays. So one was on Saturday, and the first thing I had to do is wake up, exercise, get cleaned up, go buy groceries, then go find the clothes for this themed party thing, and then go to the party thing.
Tattoos on yourself.
Draw tattoos on myself, chop it up with some peeps, and then the peace out, and then go play some games with Corey and Commander. And we only played 2 games because everyone was super tired and hungover and hungry. I
could have done like 3 or 4 more games.
But we were all
sad.
hungry as shit. And so we all did that, and then the next day also
Tom and I failed to have Taco Bell together.
Did you go to the Burr off of Buena Vista one, or off Hollywood one?
Yeah, I was like, the one by my house.
Gotcha.
And you're like, yeah, and I was like, okay.
And then I went to Magnolia. Gotcha.
Yeah, they're both on Magnolia. That's what's confusing.
I am a dumbass at times. So and then Sunday woke up. Felt like blah because drank a lot of alcohol and had bad food, and then, you know, exercised, and then part of our Commander pod, there's a guy who actually teaches martial arts, and he went to his session. We were doing roundhouse kicks, side kicks, pickaxe kicks, and then it was interesting because like this is my second like
who teaches martial arts?
Alex.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's so interesting, right? Because I'm used to like I'm coming out of a really rough Marine guy who was teaching like kickboxing and jujitsu.
Alex is so sweet.
And then Alex is like summer camp counselor who's just like, hey, so you really want to do this, and we're gonna do this, and it's going to really hurt if you do that. I'm like, okay, pops, like it's so funny, but it's so positive and it's nice. Yeah. And if anything, for most people, what they can really get out of it is like good cardio out of it. So shout out to Alex if you all ever in LA and want to do some. And the cool thing is that he knows like weapon stuff too. So he's like, hey, I might bring some eskrima sticks, and we could do cane work. We could do a bow staff, you know, later on. But and it's funny, we're right out Verdugo Park. And there's a bunch of people who do like kendo, like right next to us, so it's pretty like funny. I'm like, oh, we're all a bunch of fucking nerds doing martial arts in the park.
I'm crashing next time for sure. That sounds awesome.
First 3 sessions are for free.
Okay.
But yeah, and then after that, I had to go to another birthday thing, and that was apparently supposed to be at the Barnsdall Park, and then it rained out, so we had to go to we had to go to a house. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm done. And then need to do a little, you know, sometimes you do all these things for other people to maintain your relationships. And sometimes they're actually not for you. Sometimes they're there and having relationships fulfill you, but then sometimes you need to do something for yourself. And so I ended up going to Shinsengumi over in Little Tokyo, and then just having a bowl.
Spider's onesie?
I got spicy miso, and I got some miso butter in there, and some extra chashu, and you know, it was nice. It was a nice time walking around.
Took yourself on a Tom date?
Yeah, you know, a little, you know.
Gotta date yourself a little bit, man.
A little bit, and I discovered I like going there and kind of walking around and seeing that kind of stuff. Like I did that one time when like it was really early in my like mental health recovery, and I just I worked out really hard. I went on a hike, and then I went down to Little Tokyo, got myself a Gundam build thingy, and then I took myself to a restaurant I'd never been to, and I was like, all right, like I eat very measured and constrained. Typically my lunches every day of the week so far, like every day of the week so far has been beans, mushrooms, and chicken tenders, like oven baked chicken tenders. So it's like barely holding on to the juiciness of what that is of chicken breast, and then that's it. And it's very not exciting, but I'm like, this is the protein, this is the, you know, fiber, and then, you know, I eat like an apple and a banana, and then I drink like coffee and an oatmeal in the morning. So it's like I have a very like regimented, like these are the healthy things in my life that aren't fun, and then on the weekends I have a little fun. So you know, also that being said, also I watched 3 movies this weekend. I watched Amsterdam, I watched The Pale Blue Eye, so a Christian Bale nights, and then Crimson Peak. And
Crimson Peak, interesting.
Crimson Peak,
interesting little. That's the Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston and Mia. I want to say Wachowski, but it's not Wachowski. But it's Guillermo del Toro.
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, and Jessica Chastain, and Charlie Hunnam. Will it be Green Arrow?
Oh yeah. I'm curious about Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, you know what's so funny? So
with Taylor Swift, right?
Taylor Swift is in there. Like I think she's in Cats, and I haven't watched Cats, where it's like, look at the name, but I'm like, but do they really add a lot to this movie?
Promoting like after the first trailer.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they might have. They're like, ooh, we cut a lot of that.
Maybe.
The first trailer.
I mean, so just for everyone who's listening and watching who don't know about Amsterdam, David O. Russell film, working with Christian Bale, they are a pair that work together most times. Typically, I think first came together during American Hustle, and this is after Jennifer Lawrence got the Oscar for the Silver Linings Playbook. So that, Amy Adams, Bradley Cooper, these were like the top of their game. David O. Russell, you know, known for Silver Linings Playbook, also Three Kings, has a very toxic history, I would say, at this point, where, you know, during Three Kings, they shoot it outside, like in this deserty area. I think it's supposed to be of the Iraq War, I forget. But there's just 100 extras in the desert, and, you know, they're all thirsty and starving, and George Clooney like is like, hey man, you gotta like take care of these guys, and David Russell refused to give them water, and so George Clooney gave him his water, gave him as much water he can give. He like stole it from Crafty to give it to them, and he's like, this is unprofessional, I'll never work with you ever again. And then David Russell ended up making Silver Linings, and then American Hustle, then Joy, and then now Amsterdam. Amsterdam's got John David Washington.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Denzel's kid. Tenet.
I know. John
Black
David
Klansman.
Right. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to call him Denzel's kid because he's done fucking amazing work on his own.
He's not famous because he's Denzel's kid, but I do know him because he's Denzel's kid. But
nepotism doesn't exist, Tom.
Yeah, but he's a good. Yeah, nepotism. He's a good actor. Margot Robbie's in there. Michael Shannon's in there. Michael Myers is in there. Robert De Niro's in there. Every motherfucker's in this movie. My God. And a lot of people have been saying the movie Babylon by Damien Chazelle with Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt, and a lot of other star-studded actors in there. I think people are misconstruing or conflating on saying like how Babylon's a big mess of a movie. I think Amsterdam's more of a mess of a movie. Babylon at least is chronological, where like Amsterdam's just like, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then you're just like, the only reason I'm holding on is because Christian Bale is like walking me through this entire movie, and like it's very held together by narration. The Pale Blue Eye. Do you know The Pale Blue Eye?
No, I'm looking it up right now.
So Christian Bale, Scott Cooper and Christian Bale, I think first got together during the Out of the Furnace, which is like a revenge modern Western, and then the Hostiles.
2022.
Yeah, it's a Netflix original. So a detective during like late 1800s has to investigate a murder at West Point and is accompanied by a young Edgar Allan Poe. And Edgar Allan Poe is played by Dursley, the kid Dursley, who's also in Queen's Gambit. And it's interesting. It is definitely interesting because I think Scott Cooper, a lot of people right now in the social zeitgeist, I think, are on Ty Sheridan's nuts of being like, Yellowstone and 18 whatever the hell for Paramount, and I'm like, all right. I think Scott Cooper really has like a hold on like Westerns for the modern age, especially working with Christian Bale. Like Hostiles is, I really enjoyed that movie. It's very violent, but it's very much like Christian Bale plays an old Confederate like vet, and like he has to. It's very 310 to Yuma-ish, I remember, if I remember. But yeah, and in Pale Blue Eye, it has all the workings of every genre, but it just married so well and so charmingly that like I think not a lot of people enjoyed it because it felt very like left field. We're like, why the fuck is Edgar Allan Poe in this bitch?
Yeah.
Which kind of preceded its like reputation, but like a detective just investigating a murder, but also has their own personal demons and has their own sordid history, their dark past, and then young buck, like inquisitive like assistant, which is Edgar Allan Poe now, and then also like this underbelly of an establishment, like, but also like everyone talks like early revolutionary time-ish, so it's like there's some British accents, there's some French being spoken, some people got twangs, and you're like, there's so much happening at the same time. But I think
it's also like a puzzle.
Yeah, but I think we've bored or regaled everyone long enough before we can just go straight into news.
Okay.
So with that, everyone, let's make sure we do our ceremonious I'm gonna just call it the Brad clap before our show. So this is Tom.
This is also Tom.
And we gotta wait. We gotta wait for Brad in the chat, please. I got Tom 3, and then if T-Dog is Tom 4. So Corey, you or me, who would like to do the news first?
I'll go first. It's fine. Knights of the Old Republic is not what my news is about. We're talking about Magic the Gathering, Lord of the Rings Commander decks have been semi-spoiled. So there's your spoiler warning right here. We don't know the Commander cards yet, but we do know the colors and the names, and we got some pictures that probably hint at what the cards will be. We just don't know the mechanics or anything like that. So right off the bat, we have Jeskai, which is red, white, and blue, with a deck, commander deck called Riders of Rohan. There's going to be 4 total here. It looks like we probably have Eowyn as the commander for that deck, just going off the picture here. Plus, it's the Riders of Rohan. Probably, a lot of people are hoping it brings horsemanship back, which is like a long dead mechanic in Magic the Gathering.
Posty uses it.
Yeah, right. Posty uses it. The second deck is going to be Abzan, which is white, black, and green, and that's called Frodo and Fellowship. It's got a picture of Frodo and Sam on there, so there's probably going to be some sort of Frodo and Sam card we're going to get. But it looks like we're getting the green and white for the hobbits, and then black for the corruption of the ring over time, which could be a lot of fun. Our third deck is called the Elven Council, and it's going to be Simic, blue and green, possibly Galadriel on the cover there, so that would be a fun one. I'd be interested in trying that out. It's probably going to be a lot of elves and a lot of 1/1 counters. That's what those colors do. And then the last but not least, this is what I'm calling the Tom deck, which is Grixis, blue, black, and red, called the Hosts of Mordor. Big old picture of Sauron in the front there. Probably gonna. We already got a Sauron, Rakdos Sauron, but this might be a different Sauron. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm very excited for these. I'm definitely buying every single one. You know me. I mean, look back there, Tom. Look at that.
Hold on.
It's happening.
There you go.
It's happening. Lord of the Rings is happening. So yeah, I'm really excited for this. I'm excited for the spoilers to start. I've already pre-ordered a few of the gift boxes. So yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait to play these decks and see what the commanders have in store for us. That is my news. Tom,
and just
any input?
Yeah, just to tag on top of it, I feel like I know a lot of people who play the game. I don't know a lot of people. I know the typical feelings and sentiment about Magic the Gathering players, and when new sets and new cards, as well as commander decks and product that is that releases specifically towards certain formats, when they branch out and they're not within the planes or realms that Wizards of the Coast and Magic have already established, so such as Warhammer, as well as Lord of the Rings could come with a little bit of trepidation, could come with some hesitation from a lot of people because people just kind of aren't fans of, you know, dipping into other IP, and then it kind of becomes like closer to Fortnite, and a lot of people want to kind of reserve and maintain the sanctity, if not the like elements that make Magic specific.
Yeah.
You know, I can understand and see that point, but there's parts of me that really enjoy Universes Beyond, and you know, these kind of like collaborative things. Like I'm like, I think I made a very shallow claim long time ago that like part of the reason why I really liked playing video games was like the skins you could play with, because you can kind of, you know, power fantasy certain things. So like I loved playing with Genji with his Super Sentai look in Overwatch, even though I was a garbage Genji player and I just, you know, tank teams. But with Magic, you know, I have only been playing it for like a year now, and seeing what I really enjoyed out of the Warhammer precons, as well as like dumping into that lore, if it feels like there's enough connective tissue, like if they decide to go like, hey, Magic the Gathering commander decks for Nickelodeon All-Stars Smash All Brawl, and it's like, but why? And it's like, oh look, we have Square Pants, the Submariner. It's a mono blue commander. You're like, why? So I can get that, and then you just make proxies if you want to do that.
The nice thing about Lord of the Rings is it seems very in universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's still high fantasy. You know, there's going to be the people who are speaking out. They're like, why are they making Aragorn black? And you're like, who fucking cares? It's Magic. They don't own the rights to the movie likeness. But yeah, it's.
I think it's cool.
Here for all of it.
I think it's cool because one, it also just it kind of does to me. It satisfies both, because then it gets people to be like in Lord of the Rings, where like stop treading on, like if people love Viggo Mortensen's Aragorn and then they see this commander and they think it's like an underpowered commander, then that's not ruined. But then if people who are like, oh, I don't give a shit about the movies and I love the books, or just like I like to play the game, I don't give a fuck about the entire Lord of the Rings, it's like, cool, the name is Aragorn and it doesn't look like what people kind of think who Aragorn looks like, you know?
Right.
So I think it's kind of like the best of both worlds in that sense. But I see Zell in the comments saying, I'd say Beast Wars would be the most appropriate for MTG cards personally. And we both know that Transformers do have their cards in there, and they do have like specific Transformers cards, like goddamn Slicer. It's too powerful. And they do have like the what are they called, Corey? Like I have a Hangerbacker Walker that's the Mecha Godzilla.
Oh, those are just like alternate art.
Yeah, so they have the alternate art Blightsteel, which is Megatron, and Darksteel, which is
right here in front of me. Organize my cards.
Is that the Blightsteel?
Yeah.
Nice. But you know, I swear it'd be cool. Does he have trample? Does Blightsteel have trample?
Yeah.
Oh man, too powerful.
Took him out of my polymorph deck, man.
God bless. All right. Well, for the news for me, we're gonna sandwich it up. Sad news, unfortunate news. Lance Reddick had passed away on Friday. I was at work when I had saw the news at 60, I believe, 60 years old, very, very young.
60, yeah.
Actor, a lot of people know as, I believe the character is pronounced Charon, pretty much
from John Wick.
From John Wick, named after like I think the messenger of the river Styx. So, but outside of that, also
Toys R Me. So he did a Funny or Die thing called Toys R Me.
Oh,
like 10 years ago, where he's a manager at a toy store, and he's hilariously aggressive, just in his his style.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have not seen that, but I watched a lot of Eric Andre, and then he was in there, and he definitely like there's a moment where you're like, oh, he doesn't play, and he punches a hole in Eric Andre's desk, and then later in the episode he comes out with LeVar Burton's like eye thingy, and then he has chains, and he's like just playing a random character, like, okay, so he's in on it, and it's like it's great, but also like. So that clip is like, you know, going around, and also one of my favorite clips, I think it was some kind of interview during the shutdown, and he's like, I'm a goofball. It's like one of my favorite words that my wife hates is titty, titty. And they just start saying it. I'm like, it's insane. It's lovable. It's great. Also going to add Battery Prince jumping in with also Fringe, Lost, Destiny, Quantum Break, and so much more. He's a very prolific actor, and it was really sudden. I think that was really unfortunate. Happenstance of the news. Like it just completely, I think, shocked a lot of people more than anything. So RIP everyone right now. If you're in a place where you can, pour one out for the homie. And next news is going to be about a post that came out also earlier last week, but after the update. I believe it was on Thursday or Wednesday, and it was from good old Zookie Cookie Zacky Snacky. And if you see this mother box, then you already know. I spent $90 on this box. It was a, Zacky Snacky is a very, very smart dude because like he worked in like commercial, and so he worked in like marketing and promotion. So he knows how to like do viral marketing pretty well. Like if you guys ever look up like the LexCorp BVS promo stuff, a lot of it is kind of like that same kind of like political ads you'd see like Gavin Newsom do of just like, we can make this city better, but it's of like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. And so like, oh shit, they did a lot of like out of screen world building for the films, and you have like Turkish Airlines with Bruce Wayne, all this stuff. Anyways, that being said, he released a video on Vero, which also linked to his Twitter account, which was a incoming transmission from Darkseid, and we pretty much can recognize the voice if you are a fan of audiobooks in general, but also if you pay really close attention to the Snyder Cut. It is the Ray Porter. It is the actor who portrayed Darkseid in the film, and he does a dubbing saying these three specific dates, and says save the date. And then just as it goes, Zacky Snacky puts up some cryptic photos of the Trinity of Henry Cavill Superman, Ben Affleck Batman, and Gal Gadot Wonder Woman, and then starts
I didn't see any of this.
And starts quoting Joseph Campbell, and you're just like, what is this? What's happening? What's happening? And pretty much it's kind of all been announced that like SnyderCon 2 is happening, which is kind of crazy to think. It's like, oh yeah, he does have his own convention for all his films, and if anything, with probably luck, it'll happen in person, which I don't think it was able to happen last time. But I think those 3 days is where they're going to screen the 3 films. And typically in Zacky Snacky fashion, it's always announcements. So tell me how this isn't a Snyderverse Elseworlds reveal. I don't know. It's crazy. I always want to be hopeful, but again, I wasn't a first early adopter of release of Snyder Cut. I was always like hesitant, and I was like, I don't know, it can happen, it may happen. And then as it got closer, I was like, I think it might happen. And then when it happened, I was like, okay, anything's on the table. Absolutely anything's on the table. And like, Warner Bros. Being bought by Discovery, and James Gunn now having the keys to the castle with Peter Safran, like I just don't know. Corey and I have been privy to some kind of public but kind of insider sayings of what's happening on the studio level on streaming sides. So like at the end of the day, big players are going to just like get the most value they can get. So like, I mean, this all also on the heels of Ben Affleck talking about his film Air, and did a lot of recent publicity and rounds and in interviews, and did nothing but kind of praise Zack Snyder, as well as like kind of discuss a little bit about like the terrible experience he had on the set of Justice League, where he was abusing alcohol, and it was away from his family, away from his kids, hated it, but pretty much said like, it's like Zack Snyder's a genius. He was saying like what he pretty much did, after it, like at a certain point, told AT&T when they needed it most, like, I can give you 4 hours of content to put on your stream platform. And then he's like, whether you, and it was kind of like spurred upon a, like with a like trying to kind of trapped up question where it's like, oh, do you feel like you don't want to go back to like DC because Ben Affleck had said that he did not want to direct any film with James Gunn in DC, and he's like, nothing against the guy, he's a great guy, but I just don't feel like that's in my wheelhouse anymore. And the follow-up question was like, do you think it's because they're very intense Snyder fans? And he's like, call them whatever you want, but if you look back retroactively, the Justice League Snyder Cut film is his highest rated movie of all time. And so he's like, it's the most successful movie I've ever been part of. And it was really interesting. And like, that's the kind of stuff that like, if you ever look up like Ben Affleck versus Bill Maher on Islamophobia, it's pretty interesting to see like, he's like, oh damn, this guy like really kind of knows how to speak publicly and like kind of, you know, I know a lot of people look at the sad Affleck meme, but it's like outside of that, like he's pretty like good at like how to grease the hands and like be professional and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, he probably had a lot of practice since him and Matt got Academy Awards when they were so young. So, but that being said, SnyderCon, Lance Reddick, RIP baby. But now we move on to questions. I'm pretty sure there was a question really early on that I did copy, thank goodness. But we can get started with these questions. And hold on. Oh, actually, hold on. I don't even know if I can actually copy this question. But before we get into those questions, I would like to mention, if you want to send questions over, just put it in the chat. That's one way. So you have to tune in on Mondays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or you can join our Nerd On Nation for as low as $1, and then you'll get put into our Discord.
That's cheap.
Yeah, it's $4, baby. You get put into our Discord server where you will get put at the top of the list, and we will, you know, answer it on the stream, and it'll be part of our bucket. Or you can also join our Discord for free and be put into like kind of like the general population of nerds that we love to interact with and talk to and do our daily frames. Thanks to T-Dog, since you know I feel bad when I always miss it. But the first question we can answer. Also, you could send it to nerdon.tv/questions. The first question is going to be from Brad, and this one is from the Discord. This is from the Discord, and I'm pretty sure it's from the Patreon section because it's a two-part question. I'm not going to answer the second question you put in there because we want to give love to everyone else. But Battery Print asks, this is a two-part question. Reveal the second part after answering the first. So I'm going to hold the second part because I've already read it, and I already, you know, you got to do a little bit of, you know. You gotta do a little bit of the production. So, what is your favorite film of recent years?
I mean, do you want to go first? We might have the same answer.
I mean, for variety's sake. Sake.
Nope. It's the question is, what's your favorite film?
Okay, well, hold on. Let me give you the parentheses then. One each, no repeats.
Okay.
So we can't repeat.
So you go first.
Okay, then my favorite film of recent years is probably Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay, I'll pick something different.
Yeah.
I would say last few years, so like what, 3 years?
Sure.
Since the pandemic came out. Fast Color came out too long ago for that. It's a good question. It's a very good question. I would have to say Harder They Fall.
Okay.
Probably my favorite movie that came out in the last few years.
So, now, the second part of this question. You've been tasked with making its movie tie-in game. So, like how every movie in the 2000s always had a video game tie-in. Describe the game you're making. Games it may be a ripoff of. Unique features, new or expanded levels that aren't in the original movie. I think that's kind of a badass question to ask.
Yeah.
Especially with
awesome.
what we suggested.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. The nice thing about there's different ways I could do Harder They Fall. You could do it like JRPG open world type of thing. You could do it how Grand Theft Auto 5 did, where you have the 3 characters you jump between, right? Like you could jump between Jonathan Majors and Regina King's character and who else? Who else could we jump between? Zazie maybe, or you could do Idris. I mean, it could be really cool. You could be the perfect blend of like Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto, but like I would add RPG elements to it for sure. JRPG. I started playing Gotham Knights.
Oh, did you?
I did. It was on dirt cheap sale on Xbox, so like under $10, and so I snagged it, and it has like ability upgrades. I liked the Arkham ability upgrades, so if you add that into a Western, I think that could be really fucking cool.
I would. So Everything Everywhere All at Once. If no one knows, it is a multiversal movie. I think the best way to kind of adapt that into a video game, for me, obviously it's a single player story. I think there's no online player shit. It is all single player. The only way I would imagine it could be multiplayer is if it's close to like a Souls game where you can see echoes, and that could potentially be like the other versions of you that did different things. In like a Soulsborne game, you could see this little like like these little glowing things on the ground. If you like interact with it, then it'll show like a silhouette version of you, and it does something, or maybe it dies or something like that. So the way I would do Everything Everywhere All at Once, I'd probably follow the story a little bit, but in between all the major scenes, because, you know, if it's going to be a la 2000s every movie game tie-in, they always like try to like Frankenstein the fucking story, and it doesn't make sense by like, why is Mysterio in Spider-Man 2? Why is the Shocker in so it's funny. So what would happen though is, so in between all the main things that we're doing, so like obviously after we go through the tutorial of like learning how to like multiverse jump, the moments, so that's where we really start having some like ingenuity, interactive and fun things that can happen in oh, hold on, I'm getting a little popping action from my guy.
Oh no,
Sorry.
I don't hear anything.
Cool. I just want to make sure that didn't happen. But what I would want to do is pretty much every time we go into a universe, it's a different type of game.
So, like art style, play
so
style,
one could be
everything.
just a straight up side-scrolling platformer. One could be a 3D platformer. When they're rocks, I'd almost imagine it as like Baba Is You, where like is top-down Deltarune, kind of like Undertale. With the rocks, or you can have it where it's like very Journey as the rocks, right? But you know, obviously when we're in the martial arts universe, like it could be pretty much an Arkham game, so like the fighting combat's very like towards you enjoying the most of the fighting style and combat. You know, if we're doing a sing song, you know, if we're doing that where she's like the singer who's blind, then it's a rhythm game. If we're doing like where it's a movie one, then it's probably going to be like a Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, where you can do things and you get style points for it, and like everything's a flashing flashlight and all that stuff. Maybe Yakuza. You know, so all the different universes I could think of is all a different style of video game. And I think, yeah, and I think, you know, obviously, when we have the hot dog fingies, it's a romance sim. So, you know, just making the right moves with, So that's what I would do. That's what I see a lot of people saying Sifu. I see a lot of people saying Wukong, and I haven't played Sifu, and I haven't played Wukong yet. So, but yeah, that's how I do it. So next question.
Yeah.
Next question of the pre-selects. This comes from 1992 Johnny Horror. Question for the live update: are you a breakfast person or a brunch person?
You know what? Breakfast, because not having brunch all the time is what makes it special.
I agree. I mean, the thing is, I'm shit as a breakfast person. Like my breakfast is oatmeal, protein, and coffee, like in one shaker bottle. And that's my breakfast. Like I wake up, I pre-make it at night, and I wake up and I go. And so, yeah, I just do that.
No, dude, I'm like eggs and bacon sandwiches over here. The other day I made waffles with sliced strawberries and bacon in it, like in the batter.
Do you know when I eat breakfast most often? For dinner.
Sundays for dinner.
I eat breakfast for dinner all the time. Eggs, pancakes, or bacon, or sandwich, or toast. And then, yeah, I love making breakfast for dinner.
So you are a breakfast person. Breakfast for dinner is amazing.
I really enjoy breakfast for dinner. So that's me. So that being said, like I really like brunch, but I get like, to me, brunch is like we're day drinking. We are drinking all day. So
yep,
that's me. But
and having French toast.
Yeah. All right. So now we'll move on to the chat questions. Question TDog8282. Who was the great Grump Gator Guesser Supreme Guesser of 2022?
Are you supposed to ask that every week?
I don't know, I'm just going to ask it every week now.
I felt like I had a really productive week this week. And really took me down.
Could always be more.
I was like on my high horse about like I got so much shit done this week. It felt really good, and I got to play Magic. Shouldn't have played Magic. Should stayed at home and listened to episodes.
You were counting, you know, life totals and commander damage, but this is lethal. This was lethal right here.
This is lethal. This is there you go.
All right, next question. If you could live, do you get that one? We got that one already. If we live in a video game world, this one's gonna be from Zell Namor. What kind of tabletop game would you like to make if you had unlimited resources, whether it be a card game, TTRPG, whatever you wish it would be?
I actually came up with a concept for a game called Classic Horror Monsters versus Humans. And it's like a huge board game with like terrain, and essentially one person plays as the humans who are in this fortress, this castle, like Helm's Deep style, and 4 other people can play as what was it? I did Wolfman, the what's it called? Swamp Thing, but like thing from the deep, whatever, Black Lagoon, zombies, vampires, and each of them have different abilities to try to make their way to this castle and kill the humans, and the person playing as the humans, it is their job to set defenses. It's set in like Victorian era, yeah, I started building this concept of this game with the professor, and we never went through with it, but it was a lot of fun to contemplate and think of ideas. Like the creature from the Black Lagoon, if you move to a place with water on it, like a swamp or a lagoon or anything, you could teleport essentially to another lagoon within a specific amount of distance.
I like that.
Or like the zombies, if you get killed, you know, you don't have to start all the way back at the beginning. You can essentially have an ability where you get back up where you were. Yeah.
Nice.
It was coming up. Everybody had their own abilities to try to get to the humans. So, yeah.
I like that because it also flips the genre of humans, which are us, versus creatures or monsters or NPC creatures and all that stuff. But now we play as the creatures, and we get to take advantage of those like abilities and stuff like that. I imagine if you're a Frankenstein, you have like some kind of super armor, or maybe even some like electricity affinity or something like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
My game, I love talking about the game I've been wanting to make for such a long time. The title is called Mantles, and pretty much what I like. The thing I wanted to make, it was almost like a Munchkin, but a Munchkin against not each other, but against the board. And so very much like think Pandemic, the board game. Maybe not a great analogy, but pretty much you and your friends are all going to play as heroes, and pretty much in your hero character you have 3 lines, and pretty much like once your character loses all their HP points, they would move on to the next and then move to the next, and they would each progressively be weaker than the last, and so you get to the final one, like kind of like the prodigal character or the resurrected one. Also, if you all hear the plane, then I'm so sorry. But
I thought it was me the first time.
No,
I was
it's
like,
me.
I do live really close to the airport.
You live closer than I do. And the point of the game is kind of like you and your team. So typically I would do 4 to 6 players would go on this map, this board game map, and you would go and fight crime certain places. So there would be like, you know, robber, thug, henchman, whatever the fuck it is. As you complete your missions and fight crime, you know, sometimes you could go and just save a cat in a tree, and typically they'll all be cards. So you'll pull cards, you'll shuffle them up, and those are the instances that will happen. It's like, cool, hey, there is a cat over on this street, or hey, there's a robbing happening over here, or there's a carjacking here, and then you would move your characters to go stop the crime. You know, you have movement, you have endurance, you have, you know, HP, and then you pretty much fight. You would get a reward, and that's typically like armor or like a weapon buff or something like that. And you would accumulate all these things, and then there is a point counter, very much like in the Star Wars Risk, where it moves closer to one way or the other depending on a certain timetable.
Right.
Most of the time, I always want the game to end after like 10 to 15 rounds. And then pretty much what would happen is that you would clear the board, keep your character stats, and you'd flip the board, and then you would go into like final boss, and you have to fight like this final boss character who had nothing but like these boss cards that were just like like really hard stakes. And so
Right.
all your guys that you've assembled all these cool things have to beat this boss.
It's a boss fight.
It's a boss fight. And there's one modular version of it where instead of a boss fight at the end, what ends up happening is you could do like the Blackest Night, I called it. Like, you know, pretty much all the enemies you beated that are in the discard pile come back, and they all have buffs +10, +10, +10.
Good
so you just
Lord.
fight the same thing, but they're all coming at you at once. Or you do one where it's like, cool, you're just fighting invasion, so everything's just harder to begin with. But yeah, I always want to do that, and then you could use that as different skins for Marvel, DC, Kingdom Hearts, whatever the hell you want to do, Star Wars, Transformers. I thought it was really,
X-Men.
yeah, that was a really cool, just kind of game. Like, oh, you could put a bunch of skins on this and have that kind of fun. And let me see. I see there's so many things happening in chat. I see Mamba giving me some flack about airplanes. Remember that time I did claps from an airplane? Yep. Would make a Cowboy Bebop game. Thomas, that's a pretty cool. I like that Cowboy Bebop game. I want to hear how you would do that. Maybe if you want to put it in the Discord, continue the conversation. But I think we have time for 1 to 2 more questions. First one I'm going to get to. Let's do one from Thomas Del Rio, since it's been such a minute since I've seen your name on a stream. I know you're probably working on a lot, baby. Thoughts on the new Flash movie?
I mean, conflicted thoughts, but ultimately I'm excited for it. I know that, and the reason there's one reason that I'm excited for the Flash movie. Batman. Which is a weird thing to have to say, but I'm excited for the Flash because of Batman. Excuse me, Batman. Obviously Keaton is going to be a huge part of my excitement in that. But there's also I don't want to spoil nothing if you haven't seen it. There's a certain suit that's making an appearance that I've wanted since forever. So, Tom?
I have a kind of opposite like anticipation. Like, there's just part of me that like I'm so over the nostalgia aspects of things. Like we are both people who were like, you know, you were, and I am here to say, everyone should know that everyone was a fucking liar, joker, bullshit, piece of shit. Corey was the original. Andrew Garfield is the greatest Spider-Man of all time.
Oh.
He was the original. Yeah. He was the original. None of us get to enjoy that movie because Corey originally was watching that movie. And to me,
that's how that works.
But the thing is, you, as well as myself, who love Tobey Maguire, were never like, they should recast Tom Holland and bring back this person. Like,
Right.
I am so sick and tired, and to me, when I say everyone, I mean me. When I mean bitches, I mean me. No one, so I guess me. No one gives a rat's fucking ass about the past when you can't move forward in the terms of like a universe thing, right? Like I was like the first person to be like, why the fuck are they making a Joker movie at all? What does it fucking do? Other than be like, cool, it's a good movie and people like it and it makes a lot of awards and it has good press. But like, when we're talking about like these connective things, because now everything has to be connective, just because that's the business we're in right now, like, what does that do for this? And so for me, like, Michael Keaton is probably one of the most charismatic like actors like of his time and his generation. He's someone that constantly loves to bring back the fact that like, I'm Batman. And so I'm like, you know what? You do deserve to have like a fun go with it. I feel like for me, I would be much more excited to see purely Ben Affleck and Ezra Miller's characters on screen and have their full-fledged movie. And I know what's happening with this movie and how it's going to be used and da-da-da-da-da-da. A lot of it feels like the initial idea of it was like, let's work on nostalgia. And now it's being like, well, now we're going to reuse it so we can say this or that and make the hardline rules of this soft reboot. So my initial thoughts or my thoughts about the movie is like, I really like Andy Muschietti as a director. I don't necessarily think he's the greatest director of all time. I don't think he's like, you know, the God's, you know, gift from God, but I liked Mama. I do like the It series for what it did, how it, you know, worked amongst like a generation of actors here, and then engaged them up, and it retold the story in a big bad way. It, you know, I always, you know, Corey and I talked about how much we respect like a horror director going into like big action adventure dramas.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool, and I think it's really cool that his wife is like his producer, and like I think those are just really cool things to see. Same thing with like Nolan and his wife, and that being said, like I am still kind of, I guess, waiting for the verdict of like what's going to happen with all the charges against Ezra Miller and how they definitely need some, you know, help and stability in their life and what this all means. And there's a part of me that's kind of like, I don't want to get invested at all in anything because as things can happen and as Zachary Levi will make fun of Britney Spears Conservatory, things can change. So I don't know. I don't want to like have too many hard feelings about anything. To me, I'm like, I'll see what happens. I still have not watched Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and the unfortunate thing about that is like I really love David F. Sandberg. Huh? It's out. It came out this last weekend, and I have been making kind of a bit of like a point to not talk about DC news at this point because it's like it's so back and forth, and like I don't want to get emotionally invested into it. Like I only want to get invested in the things that I can kind of tell for sure are going to happen at this point.
I got a question for you then. Actually, since you kind of mentioned, you're like, oh, why the fuck are they making a Joker movie? I remember that conversation we had, and I was like, it could be cool, and then we flipped.
We flipped.
Yeah. How are you feeling? Feelings of James Gunn taking over his side and all the changes. The fact that there is established that they are using Elseworlds within this new movie plan. How do you feel about that?
So honestly, it to me just feels like, well, the Batman and the Joker were too successful for us to even say no to. So it's a problem that we can't just shut down, or else we're going to be even more in the hole in a public branding site. Like they're already in the hole. Let's say Batgirl was the most dog shit movie of all time. Let's say that. Yeah. Let's imagine Academy Award winner Brendan Fraser had the most dog shit performance of all time. Let's just imagine that, right? Let's imagine that the guys who did Bad Boys for Life did not know how to make an action movie. Let's imagine that, right? Let's imagine that's a possibility in our world.
Okay.
That tanked their like stability of being like a company that people want to do business with so hard, and then Nolan left, and then like no one has really any ties or cares. And then their next big thing that they really relied on was Olivia Wilde's movie, which had nothing but mired public reception. So all that being said, the idea or the framing or the calling it Elseworlds, and then like hopefully putting these things in a, like, oh, our main Earth 1 universe is this, Earth 0 was the past, and then the Elseworlds is Superman and Lois, the Batman and Joker. And Teen Titans Go are just like, well, yeah, because they're too big for you to cancel. If the Suicide Squad was like as big as the Batman or as big as the Joker, then for sure they can be like, yeah, fuck this, we're gonna cancel this shit all, you know. So it's like,
yeah,
it just feels like a little bit of save face, but like I only hope. I never want. Do you think
they'll utilize it as a creative choice at this point, or do you think it's just a sticker?
I think it's honestly like maybe we also need to get our, you know, because they're also like double downing on like
Peacemaker.
They're double downing on the DC IP, so they're for sure needing like the Joker to be like, you're gonna be our Academy darling, the Batman, you're gonna be our like people who still want Nolan-y shit, but Nolan's not with Warner Brothers anymore. And you know, DCU is going to be like their chance to be like, well, here's Marvel, but now DC. Right. So I don't think at all. I have zero faith and confidence to feel like they're going to use those in any creative ways, because
I just had to ask about that
because I think the Batman fans don't want it to be connected to it. I don't think Matt Reeves wants it connected to it. It's like Nolan and Christian Bale being like, if Robin shows up in tights in our trilogy, we're out. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if there is some fucking character that comes through a portal and is like, hey, Robert Pattinson, come through, like I think everyone's gonna flip their shit. Same thing with Superman.
Well, no, couldn't it just be Elseworlds like the comics have it?
Yeah, I mean, if it's by itself, sure, but like I don't see them potentially pivoting or leveraging it in like a very resourceful way. Like
that's what I was asking. I was like, do you think they'll have the cojones to like actually be like, all right, let's do some Elseworld stories?
I think if they had the cojones to do that, they would have done that 10 years ago. Only because like they did. They were like, hey, this is the Nolan stuff, this is the Dark Knight trilogy, and then this is Man of Steel, and everyone was like, millions of people were like, where's Christian Bale? And it's like, bro, that series is done. Like, this is Ben Affleck. It's a different guy. It's a different version of the character. And like, and I'll say it this way in a sense of like this. I feel so bad to say this, but it's like Marvel hasn't done something like that where like they're like, this is an Elseworld story, and to huge success. Their main successes have just been because they're connected. But like Star Wars hasn't shown any promise of Elseworld stories with like their Tales of the Jedi, because they're all canon. Like their main thing is like they have to establish what's canon and then what's not, and then they never publicize it, give a shit about what's not canon. They only give a shit about what is canon. So like to me, it's like I don't see you knowing how to utilize your resources in that way, and it feels bad. It feels bad to say that, and that's why again I don't talk about it as often, because I'm just like, But I see so many chats going on. I do want to open up for one last question for Mamba, because this question was asked earlier in the night. This will be the last one.
Yeah.
Question from Black Diablo Mamba. Has there been anything you gave away or sold but then regret doing it because the rise in popularity? Cards, comic books, figures, etc.
Do you have one?
Something I gave away or sold that I instantly regretted? Yeah, when I was a kid, there was an Obelisk the Tormentor promotional card that I had, and trusting the anime, because fucking Yu-Gi-Oh anime just leads you down a bad path. Doesn't teach you about the game at all. Later seasons do. But in the anime, there was a card that beat the Obelisk, the Tormentor card, and the card that I had was just a promotional card. And so it had no battle text. It had all flavor text. And it was like really cool because it was the first American printing of this card, and I had it. It was a collector piece, but everyone had it. So I was like, whatever. And we all knew that the battle print was going to come out later on and be an actual playable card, and I was like, that's what I really want. I traded this motherfucker out for a card that came out in a movie. As a movie promotional card. So if you bought the movie, you got the card. And I traded mine out for that card. And they stopped printing the one that I had, but I didn't care because it didn't have any game value to me. I now, as an adult, still regret that. And I peeked a look. The card I currently have, $3. The card that I did have, the blue card I traded away, $300. And it's like, because it's such a high collector value, and they haven't reprinted that version card, but they reprinted the card that I traded for, and I'm like,
sure.
Technically it has the battle text and it's cool, but I'm like, they made better versions and better printings and more rarer quantities of them. I'm like, that sucks. That's rough.
I opened and sold a Force of Will for $50 before I played Commander. Pack fresh. Probably worth a lot more than that now. I think it's worth like $100-something. And I wish I still had it with the old art and everything. Damn. Wish I still had that. Damn. But I was like, $50 for one card. I'm gonna sell it. I was like, I made some bank. I also sold a not Ashnod's Altar. What's the other
Phyrexian Altar?
Phyrexian Altar for $20. Damn. Back in the day, an old border one with the blue lady on it. Damn. Then I was like, $20. And then it got up to. It's not as high as it was anymore, but still. Let me see. How much is the one I sold worth? Because tell you what, $20 on eBay, they take their taxes, you gotta pay for shipping and all that shit. It's probably not worth. It's not so bad anymore, I guess. It dropped from like almost $100 down to 20. So we're doing okay.
Yeah, I think I'm getting one from our spot for very cheap. And it's gonna be my first one. That's the show. Thank you, Black Diablo Manda, for the feel bads reminder of our errors of our ways. But that being said, thank you for all the questions. Thomas Lario, I do see you do have a question in there. I'm going to bank it for next week. It is a good question. I do like it a lot.
Is Brad streaming?
Huh?
Is Brad streaming?
Yeah, I was going to say, now everyone that came from the raid, if you want to come through and stick around, I know Bad Reprint is going to be streaming again soon, so we'll give them some time to set up. I also want to just say thank you for everyone for making out to the green screen room on our Discord. Again, every Monday before the stream, typically 10, 15, sometimes 30 minutes before. We just log on. We have all our shit ready to go. Sometimes you get to see us like panic and figure all this stuff out because some type update will happen.
We can't hear each other and we can't see each other.
Or you'll see me just give Steve's the business and just shit talk everything he loves, and then he'll just get mad. Yeah. So that's kind of fun. Sometimes you'll hear a little bit of the chit chat stuff that we don't talk about on stream or want recorded. But yeah, you got to be part of that stuff, especially if you're part of the Patreon for as low as $1. Everyone, we're coming close to almost, I think, maybe the announcement date of The Thief of Joy, which we shot last year. If you haven't checked out that short film, it is the first Nerd On short film that we produced, wrote, directed, all in the Nerd On household, and made it. It's on our YouTube channel. Check it out. But all that being said, if you have any of your favorite moments, questions, continue the conversation on our Discord. I would love to chat with y'all there. Most time, I'm kind of
on the anniversary of it. Is that what it is?
Of the announcement.
Oh, gotcha.
It's like, all right, this is the story. Because I think the way I did it was one of my Patreon Tom Talk videos, and I was like, these are the 3 scripts, and I was like, these are the stories I'm doing. This one's like this one's like this one's like, and you gotta check it out. And I kind of like. It was almost kind of like a feedback session where I was like, all right, does this sound good? Does this sound crazy and all that shit? But yeah, join the Discord, talk about some things, chat. Tell me what you're watching right now. If you have a letterbox, link it up and I'll add you. That's like my favorite social media right now. It's Letterboxd. All you do is just log down the movies you're watching and then you rate them, and then you can write reviews if you want to.
Oh, I want to do that.
Yeah, and so right now I'm doing a list of every movie I've watched this year. I'm at 44 movies this year.
Hell yeah, Tom.
So it's a lot of movies. Some of them I've watched before, but some of them are like, it's a sad thing. Crazy thing, not one movie I've watched this year came out in 2023. There hasn't been one movie that I've been excited to watch in theaters. So, but yeah, check that out. Join us on the Discord. Continue the conversation. Most of the time, I just feel like Goku from Beyond when he's like, hey, it's me, Goku. I'm coming in for the World Martial Arts Tournament, just fucking incessantly in every channel as much as I can. So be part of that. Disrupt the wall of Tom in every chat, and then share something that you love. Yeah. Talk with us. Thank you, everyone. Corey, any last words?
A juxtaposition.
Very good. We're going to ahead and do the raid to Brad. Yeah. We're going to start the raid now. Thank you, everyone, for swinging by. We appreciate y'all. Drink some water. Take care of your loved ones. You know the drill. As always, nerd on.
Nerd on.